What's going on, guys? Clint here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to load images into your Next.js application along with some different scenarios and the best use cases. So one of the benefits of using Next.js, as we know, is built-in image optimization, and here I am just on the Next.js image documentation page. So some of the things the ways that Next.js optimizes our images is: one, it provides lazy loading by default; two, it optimizes file sizes, leading to increased speed and performance; and finally, it adds visual stability to our web app, meaning basically our layout will not shift whenever our application is loading images. So to take advantage of all this, we need to use the image component that Next.js provides to us. So looking at the documentation here, Next.js we must use one of the following import methods for our images. So number one, we can use a statically imported image, which is also like a locally stored image, like I have here in my public folder. You'll see our image here, nice images that we're going to be using. So also you can use an external URL path string, which would be from an API, or you could pull from another website, for example, like Pexels or Unsplash. And finally, you can use an internal path string, but in that case, you're going to have to use like a loader prop and do some extra configuration, which we're not going to do in this video. And in fact, in most cases that I've come across so far, I'm just dealing with locally stored images, like statically imported images and images from APIs or other websites. So let's go ahead and have a look here. So in our index.js here, I'm going to jump on over to my, I'm already in my development server here. Typically in React.js application, you would import an image like this, right? And this is just an external file path here from unsplash.com. So, and there you can see our image is displaying and it looks great. However, we're not going to get any of the benefits we just talked about if we just use the image tag like that. And something to note here, you cannot, Next.js will not allow you to import images like you would typically in React.js. It's just not going to work properly and it's not going to load. So in order to take advantage of all that awesome stuff, let's add our image component from Next.js. So the first step is up here at the top. What we want to do is import image from next/image. So, and I already imported my image here that we're going to jump into in just a moment. So now that we have access to our image component here from Next.js, we can use that anywhere inside our function. So I'm just going to say image just like that. I'm going to close it off. And I'm going to give this an alt tag here. And inside that image, what we can say is I'm going to give it a source here, just like that. And we can use our BG image. Now we should see our image over here on the right, and that looks awesome. Now, it's important to note that when you're statically importing an image, just like we did, this is a statically imported image. You do not have to specify the width and the height of the image because Next.js is storing this image in our public folder. Therefore, it already knows the dimensions. However, whenever we use an external URL, we will need to add some extra properties to our image component. And the external URLs like we did in that lowercase img. So like I said, what if we are grabbing this? We'll go ahead and delete that. What if we're grabbing it from an API endpoint or from another website? So you'll see that right off the bat, we get an error and it says you must use the width and height properties or the layout fill property. And these are simply two different methods. I'm gonna go ahead and save that. And I like to use, I'm gonna show you how to do both, but I like to use the layout fill just like that. And that way, it'll display the entire width and height of the screen. But before, if we're using an externally URL file, what it says, you get this error, is hostname images.unsplash.com, which is where my image is hosted here, is not configured under your images in your Next.js. Next.config.js. So what we need to do is just make some changes to that, but don't worry, it's pretty simple here. So what I'm going to do is just open up my side menu and we're going to find the next.config.js. And it should look something like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to replace that here. And what I'm going to say is images. Then we're going to say domains. Okay. And in here, what we're going to do is add a couple of brackets, and we can just, it actually tells us what host name to add. So images.unsplash.com. So what we're going to do, and we're going to put that in quotes, we're going to say images.unsplash.com. Now, also something to note, if you're pulling from multiple different APIs or URLs, then you're going to need to add those, maybe not APIs, but if you're pulling from different URLs, you're going to have to add another, website.com or something like that. But in this video, I'm just pulling from Unsplash here. So let's go back into our Next.js image. And once we added that here, also something to note, you do need to restart your server. So make sure you restart your server. Otherwise, you're not going to see any of those changes. So now that I've stopped my server, I'm going to go ahead and start it back up. And once I reload, that should get rid of all of the errors there. And there we go. Perfect. That's what we want right there. So another thing we like to do, for example, here, we're using the layout fill, which what that means, it expands the full width and height of the viewport here. So we also have access to the object fit property, and this is just like CSS. It's just the CSS object fit. So you can use cover, contain, fill. I'm gonna use here. I like to use different ones really, but I like to use the object fit cover if it's going to be like a full width screen images. That way it just maintains the aspect ratio and just looks really nice. Or sometimes I like to use the contain if I do not want the image to take up the full width and height of the screen. So, but what if you don't want to use the layout fill and you want a lot smaller images? So what you can also do, I'm just going to comment that out. In fact, I'll just delete it. And we're going to get this error again, like we just saw. You must use width and height properties. So this image is actually quite large, so I'm going to scale it down a bit because it's actually like 1920 by 2880. But what I'm going to do is just add a width here, and we actually don't need brackets. I don't know, for some reason it gives those brackets, but you want to put it as a string here. And I'm just going to say 192 for the width, and for my height, I'm going to say I'm just going to say 288, which is quite small. But there you can see our image is displaying correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and just go back here because I like this object fill, object fit, contain. I like that. So just to recap, you guys. In fact, I want to give you something a little bit of a bonus here. So if you notice, whenever we reload our page, just like that, you can see the image flicker. And Next.js offers a really cool tool to get around that, and it's super simple. All you have to say is just add a property here to your image component. You can just say priority, just like that. And now, if you notice, whenever you refresh your page, the image does not flicker. It stays on the page, no matter if you even while refreshing. So this is something that you would want to add only something in the initial viewport of your site. You're not going to want to add anything. You're not going to want to add this priority property to any of the image components that is outside your initial loading viewport. So just to recap here, remember when using an external URL, we must either define the layout fill or use the width and height property. And just also note that this is not required when loading static local images. So then also, if we're pulling from an external path URL, then we must configure the domains in the externally loaded images inside of our next.config file. So I hope you liked it, you guys. Smash the like button if you got some value out of this, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next one.